Some leaders leave footprints, others leave libraries. You're tuning into the Authors on Mission podcast, where industry giants become literacy legends. In every episode, we talk with authors who turn their brilliance into books that transform lives. I'm Danielle Hutchinson, your host and Chief Creative Officer at Authors on Mission. Welcome to your authorship experience. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Authors on Mission. So, what if I told you that the very thing you think you don't need might be exactly what you're missing? That sometimes the journey to finding someone else becomes the path to finding yourself. Well, today we're diving deep with Anna Gomez, a woman who refuses to be just one thing. By day, she's crunching numbers as a global CFO for Mischief at no fixed address. By night, let's be honest, probably early mornings and still on weekends, she's crafting stories that make grown adults ugly cry in the best possible way. Anna's latest novel, Somewhere Along the Way, isn't just a book, it's a roadmap for anyone who ever felt so lost, anyone who's ever wondered about the stories we tell ourselves about our family, and anyone who believes that sometimes the most unexpected detours lead us exactly to where we need to be. Welcome to the Authors on Mission podcast. We're going to be talking to more than just a writer, someone whose mind is turning our deepest questions into stories that change lives. I'm your host, Danielle Hutchinson, Chief Creative Officer here at Authors on Mission. And Anna, welcome to the show. Let's talk about getting lost, finding yourself.
Thanks for having me, Danielle.
Of course. I'm looking forward to chatting. And I think what makes your story super cool is that you're not just a writer here, but you're a super busy CFO while balancing time to write, which I think that's something our audience is really going to benefit from hearing how you make it all happen. So I'd love to get started with that today. How do you find time to write in such a busy world and find the passion behind all these words after a busy day?
With a lot of prioritization. There's only 24 hours in a day, so it's just having a lot of priorities and being very organized.
Right. Okay. I guess that's really what it's about, right? And planning it out, finding the right minutes of time that you're able to sit down and get writing a bit. That's great. So what led you into the writing world? I'm sure it must have been a very interesting story, some spark of inspiration that made you say, you know what, I have to start typing this story out.
This particular book or just writing?
Well, in general, yes, but then of course about this book also.
Oh, well, for this book, actually, Kobo, Rakuten Kobo, it's the ebook company, actually reached out to me about 2 years ago and asked me if I was interested in writing a book for them. And at that time, I had no idea what I was going to write, but I knew I wanted to write for them. So I said yes. And I made up this story about a woman trying to go on a journey and find herself. But I really didn't know what the book was going to be about or what the story was going to be about. And then it just organically came to me. It was supposed to be just a straight through romance about a girl going on a road trip and a journey and meeting a guy. But as I was writing it, a lot of things just came back to me about experiences that I've had dealing with, mental health and just being, growing up years and teenage years and young years and whatnot. So that's how the story came about. I wrote about Charlie and Graham and Charlie's family.
Right. So that's really nice to see that it was a story that evolved as you began writing. Does that mean you didn't have quite of an outline, but more so you just let your creative thoughts flow?
Yeah, I don't do outlines, which is so weird, I know, but I just,
Everyone has their own way.
I should probably be doing outlines, being in the finance field and being kind of like, left brain, right brain kind of thing. But no, it was, I knew what I wanted the story to be, and I always know what the message will be. And then the story just kind of wraps around that central message.
Great. Well, that's really nice to see. And also that it kind of, as you mentioned before, it's intertwined with your own experiences. So
Right.
as we read this book, how much of Charlie is fiction? How much of Charlie is actually Anna Gomez?
I wouldn't really say it was all Anna Gomez. There's a lot of Anna Gomez in there. I think I've always written based on experience or based on people I've met, cultures I've experienced. So there's a lot of that in this book. but also it was kind of a fictionalization of like what actually happened to me or my mom or dad. I think the main point for this book was to kind of honor my mom and dad and they're just wonderful parents that they were. They're both gone now, and I wanted to write something in their memory.
Understood. And clearly, you did a beautiful job of doing so. You perfectly capture what it's like to learn about, one's parents. I mean, just from what I was looking through the book, it starts off talking about her absent mother. She never really missed her until she found certain letters, right? So, what exactly inspired you to explore this dynamic of, grief and curiosity? Did you feel similar to that, I guess? Or
Yeah, I think everyone loses someone
yeah.
that they love, in their life. And for this particular one, the fact that Charlie never missed her mother, I wanted to kind of honor or give kudos to those single fathers that actually, raise their children on their own without a mom. And the homage here to them is that he was both mom and dad to Charlie, and she never really longed or felt like she missed anything growing up.
Which is a good thing. It's positive, that she did have that emotional support there in a father figure. How did you balance that sort of dynamic? I'm sure their relationships evolved along the way. It must have been a lot of characterization to think about and plan.
The past books I've written always were had a multicultural touch to them, and so I always wanted to write about specific cultures, and this one came through in terms of the community that supported Charlie and kind of like her aunt and her friends. That was kind of the dynamic that I wanted to put into the book, and I wanted people to see like what it was like to live in that culture, that kind of community.
Understood. Got it. And how do you build such a community and setting like that? I mean, I'm sure you would have had to first immerse yourself in that particular community. Was it something also that was in your experiences?
Yes, it's always part of my experience. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah, so it's really cool. You draw from your own experiences and you put it into the book, but then you expand upon it too. It's really amazing stuff. I think what we can learn here from you, Anna, is that we take our own stories, we modify just a little bit to serve our message and serve our audience, but at the end of the day, it's not a great, beautiful balance between it. So, going more into the book itself, there's also more characters than just Charlie. There's also Graham Mead, kind of a mysterious identity, his own reasons for being on the, quest there. So, without any spoilers, of course, what drew you to create such a character who's always kind of running from something? Does that also relate back to you?
Charlie had to go on a journey, both, literally and figuratively, right? So she had to go on this journey of finding her mom. And so she just found a friend to do that same thing with her. And obviously, meeting a person, you don't really know what that person has gone through or why this person is at the right time or the wrong time or wrong right place. And so Graham was kind of the character that was quietly just supporting her as she went through this journey.
Understood. Got it. So yeah, you need those support figures in your life, I guess, whether it be in the book or characters or also in the writing process too. So did you kind of have a Graham along your path as you were writing this book? Any supportive figures, editors, beta readers, coach, anything like that? Or just it mainly on your own?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have beta readers. I used to in my early writing career, but I found that it just like made me anxious and stressed me out. Just because everyone has their own opinion and everyone wants to see a story go a certain way. But I did have a lot of support. I have a very well, two now. I've had very, very supportive publishers that have recognized the fact that I have a career, a full-time career. And so I really wasn't held to any deadlines. And I had a publishing date, but deadlines that I put on myself to when the editor would read it, when the second edits would be done, proofread and all that. But they really always were very flexible with me. I guess going into the writing process or publishing process, I've always been very clear about the amount of time that I have. Because you can imagine like this kind of career, like you basically use vacation days and time off to be able to actually get into the creative process. So those are the people that supported me along the way, aside from my family who was always there for me.
Got it. Got it. It's really awesome that you have that support. And I think you really need it. A lot of people think that writing is just a solitary effort, but most of the time you do need some guidance and a little bit of support. And I think the best thing that your publishers did, of course, was being accommodating with your schedule. I always
Yeah.
say it's always a delicate balance between having so much flexibility that you're able to do it when it works best in your schedule. But then also there's a kind of a faltering point, right? If you don't have anybody kind of waiting on that manuscript, then you're more likely to fall off of the writing. So it's good that they were lenient, but that you knew you had to, get on it and write when you could, right?
Yeah, and there's also, coming from the corporate world, there still is kind of a stigma against romance writers, and, you know, just being a romance writer is kind of, yeah. So then you have to find that happy medium too, because you have a public persona as a writer, but you also have a public persona as an executive and, in a corporation, in a company. So you have to mix those two things. Plus, when the publisher comes in and, you're working on deadlines and whatnot, there's just so much of the dynamic that has to do a lot with prioritization and time and brand and image and all the things that if I were just a full-time writer, not just, but I'm jealous of full-time writers, but if I were a full-time writer, there's a lot more I could do with my persona, my brand, my postings, my, social media, all that stuff, right? So the fact that they're very understanding about a lot of things that I cannot do is great.
Understood, right. Well, do you think ever, in your wildest dreams, you would want to become just a writer, or do you like the balance of, doing both right now?
Yeah, I love the balance. I think
Balance.
I'll always be in finance. Like I just love that part of my career. So
Understood. Well, this one is also taking off, though. I understand your other book is being adapted for television.
yes, actually, yeah, the Funcuna with Love series. Long, long time, but yes, it's in the process.
Oh, really cool. Awesome. Well, I guess we'll have to, stay in touch and up to date to see, the updates on that one. Really cool, though.
Sure.
It's great to know that, your books are out there, but they're not just staying on the shelves. They're being read and loved and transformed into other mediums like that. So really awesome stuff.
Yeah.
So one thing that you've said when I was looking through your materials is that you say storytelling can be a tool for connection and healing. You mentioned that a little bit earlier in the podcast as well. So when you're crafting these deeply emotional scenes, these romantic points, how do you take care of your own mental health in the process? You mentioned that you have to do a lot of planning. I wonder if you have any other types of self-care that works for you that might help for other authors as well.
Yeah, I think what's most important is you're writing for the right reasons. You're writing because you have words to say, you have a platform or lessons to teach people. And so that helps me with my mental health in terms of when there's a lot of pressure or when there's a lot of emotional scenes that you have, like memories of the past that you have to actually translate into words. You have to be, comfortable with your stand, with yourself. And I think that's the very first thing actually in taking care of yourself for mental health. It's like you're not swayed by the noise around you. You just basically are writing because you love to write. You're writing because you have something to say and you want to impart something either to the younger generation or older generation or to the whole world. And then you kind of like just stay on track with that. That to me is a lot of my mental health because you're very competitive with yourself. And so you need to stay grounded, right, for the right reasons. And then a lot of family support. As I said, I have kids that are grown. I have a husband that's very supportive. I have a lot of friends. I don't have a lot of friends in quantity, but I have a lot of friends that are very loyal and that are very supportive. So it's a whole village.
Understood. Right. So kind of having that community, I guess it kind of goes back to what you were saying about the plot of the book itself, right?
Yeah.
Having
Yeah.
a baby village. I like that. So really amazing things. And it kind of goes right directly back into the book itself because, mental health does run throughout the story. And I noticed, when I was looking through everything, it seemed really important to show healing as a non-linear, as a complicated process rather than a neat resolution. So I'm wondering, what went into that kind of plot line because your character does kind of go through that like a kind of conventional path to healing. Is that true? Would you say?
Yeah. Yeah. I think all my books have that common theme where messy things don't get fixed right away. There's always a catharsis and a learning journey. Sometimes people meet at the wrong place or wrong time and they're not right for each other. And there needs to be some kind of resolution that goes through time. I believe time heals everything. And if you have to put your characters through a long time of developing and learning and transforming, so be it. So there's always that process. I don't think things can be resolved right away, specifically like mental health. Sometimes you have to accept that it's in your family or in your life and you have to deal with it. I mean, sometimes it's a lifelong thing that you live with, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I guess sometimes you're right. You have to find a way to still thrive while, adapting and dealing with that, regardless if you're able to overcome it or not. Like, is that kind of what you're getting at there, you think?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, sometimes there's no cure for a heartache or a heartbreak or mental health or things that you're going through. You just have to kind of learn how to live with it, you know?
Right, definitely. And, just as a storytelling perspective, in terms of like the writing aspect of it, of course, you don't want the characters' problems to be solved right away. So I'm sure that also
Yes.
is a little bit of a factor, some push and pull, some tension added, all for the flow of the plot, right?
Yeah.
It always makes sense to do that too. So yeah, I mean, going into the writing process itself, then, did you have a specific writing routine? Which, of course, you mentioned your busy schedule before. What was that like? Was it kind of squeezing in moments in between work, or was it, did you ever set time in the mornings or the evenings? What worked best for you?
Actually, in the evenings, like I make sure that I put in like 12, 13-hour days and then I stop and I kind of like do a couple hours at night. But a lot of my writing is actually done on weekends or during travel time. I travel a lot for my job. So you can imagine I'm in airports, I'm in lounges and lobbies and,
Oh,
airplanes. And that's where I get most of my writing done, like when my head is clear and I'm on the way somewhere. And also because I'm older and my kids are actually grown, there's a lot of time to do things, on weekends and at night.
right, I get that. And I love that you mentioned that you take advantage of travel time. I think that's something a lot of authors don't quite think about. If you're out and you have to be traveling, whether it be on the train or your morning commute, or if it's, on the planes, like you said, take advantage of it. And I'm sure
Yeah.
also, yeah, yeah. And for me at least, I've also done a lot of traveling. Every summer, my boyfriend and I kind of travel around the world a bit, and I do my writing there. And I find that the best writing ideas come to me when I'm in a new place, something different to
Yes.
look at and see. Yeah, you'd agree?
Yeah, it's very inspiring to be in different places and then to sit and have coffee and watch people, you
Yeah.
know, in a restaurant or a coffee shop or somewhere in Paris, just watching people. It's very inspiring. Yeah, I agree with you, and I think I'm the same way. So,
Yeah, and I'm sure, specifically for your type of books, being that it's romance and you have a lot of character dynamics, that people watching probably draws a lot of inspiration for you just in general, like right there, right? Do you have an example of that? Has that happened in your,
oh my
experience?
gosh, that's how I write my books. I see people and I make up stories about them. Like I used to take the train and it was like an hour and 20 minutes or an hour and 10 minutes from Indiana to Chicago. And I would write there and I would just see people all around me and I'd make up stories. Like, I bet that person is this, or, this person is that. And I make up stories in my head, or maybe they're getting a divorce, or maybe they're falling in love, or, and then that's how like the stories just form in my head. So,
So, pro tip to everybody listening today, if you want to be a star in one of Anna's books, just book a seat
yeah.
on the plane next to her, right? And then maybe you'll be featured.
Yeah.
I'm kidding, of course, but it's a very practical way to get inspiration, just going to a new place. And if you're listening today, you don't necessarily have to go traveling anywhere far or go to your local park, right? I mean, there's
Right.
options out there.
Yeah.
So, Anna, you mentioned, you have these books out. We have the film adaptation kind of in the works. What else can we be excited for on the horizon in the book world of your life?
Well, I'm keeping the writing going. A couple of projects I can't name yet, but one of them is going to be published next year. And then I'm going to take a little break. My son is getting married in August.
Oh, congratulations.
You, and that's a big event for our family. So I'd really like to take some time off and just enjoy the family. We have people from the Philippines coming, and we're four sisters, and my sisters are all going to be here. And I'm just excited for that. So,
That's beautiful. I love that. So yeah, taking time to the family and, recharging the creative brain and then jumping back in when you're ready for it. That's awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
I hope you enjoy all that. It's a very exciting time in your life for sure.
Thank you. It is, yeah.
So, all that being said, I'm wondering, do you happen to have any other tips for the audience today as we begin to wrap up? Any writing tips for them to, they're inspired by all you've said. What else can they learn from you? What you think?
Well, if you really love to do something, you'll find the time. One of my mentors said that to me, and I've always kept that close to me because really, like, there's only 24 hours in a day, but if you really love to do something, you'll have the time to do it. And also for just writers out there, people who want to try the craft of writing, you have to really just do it. Have a notebook with you, have your phone with you anytime a thought comes in or you want to talk about something, just write it down. And then before you know it, it becomes a book. So, and get supportive people, meet with editors and other co-writers that can get you started. I don't think we can ever do this alone, right? I started also in a community of writers and it's been the best experience.
Good. Yeah, and I agree. Definitely talked about that before, right? Having that community of support is definitely what you need. And yeah, nothing better than finding the time for it. And I like that tip you offered. If you have an idea, just write it down. Doesn't matter where you are. I always tell my clients, for example, open the notes app on your phone, voice record a message to yourself if you have to, whatever it might be. Get those ideas out there, get it going, right?
Yeah, because thoughts are fleeting, right? You think
Yes.
about something and then 2 minutes later you're like, what was that? The brilliant thing I just thought of is
Uh-huh.
gone.
No, definitely. And I'm one of those people, one of those writers, and just people in general who will forget something the minute you tell me I need to write it down to
Yeah.
make sure. So definitely something for us to hold on to there. Thanks for that. So if people want to get in touch and learn a little bit more about Anna Gomez and all of her books and, you know, adaptation of the TV show, for example, where can we best find you? What's the best links for us to get in touch?
Well, the books are available, and somewhere along the way, specifically, it's available in all platforms with Kobo, Amazon, all other bookstores. I have a website. It's annagomezbooks.com, where you can learn more about me, more about the books, and everything I write about. There's a blog in there too, so I blog a lot. So it's basically annagomezbooks.com.
Awesome. So we're going to put the links to that in the description box of this podcast today. So everybody go ahead and click on over and get in touch and collect the books because if you learned, from Anna today, then you know that the book itself somewhere along the way is something meaningful and powerful and I think we can all eat it right up. All right, well, Anna, do you happen to have a copy of your book with you right now?
Yes, I do. Here it is. I don't know if you can see it.
Oh, we just got to position it right. There it is. I can tell. It's a very compelling cover, and you can tell it really has lots to do with the traveling aspect. I see all the little, the different images there. Would you like to tell us a little bit about those?
Yeah, she starts off, she lives in New York, she lives in Brooklyn. So she starts off from Brooklyn and goes in search for her mother who ends up being in California. So that's why. And if you can see the letters, it's because every letter that her mom wrote to her dad leads her along the way.
Oh, I love that. You must have had a lot of say in this cover yourself. Did you design it yourself?
Actually, Kobo has a book cover person that
Okay.
actually does these designs. It was really great. It was beautiful when they designed it. So,
Well, that's incredible. I love it. And you always need a strong cover for your book. Even if we like to say don't judge a book by its cover, it's always important that the book at least, reflects the meaning of the book. And yeah, you definitely have that there. It's perfect. So
thank
yes,
you.
everyone. Yeah, yeah. And everyone, there you go. Check it out wherever you can find it. It's a beautiful story, and I'm looking forward to everyone checking it out. Well, Anna, thank you so much for joining us today. You have been amazing. You've offered a lot of wonderful insights, and I think we're all excited to check out more about somewhere along the way.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It was a
Of course.
pleasure.
It's a real pleasure. Thank you for proving that we don't just have to choose between either, writing or careers. You can do it both. You can make it happen. You just find a balance between, spreadsheets and storytelling, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so to everybody listening, remember that your story does matter, your journey matters, and sometimes the path you think you're on and ready for is not exactly the one you need to take. So just keep that in mind. And until next time, this is Danielle Hutchinson from Authors on Mission here with Ana Gomez. And check out the next episode and check out the books. Keep reading, keep writing, and keep inspiring. We'll see you next time on Authors on Mission podcast.
This is Danielle Hutchinson reminding you that somewhere, someone needs the book that only you can write. Visit authorsonmission.com to start your legacy. Until next time, keep leading, keep inspiring, and keep thinking in chapters. Have a great day.